Hi again, everyone. Thank you again for clicking on this link. Wherever you are and whatever you do, I hope you're doing well. So today we're going to talk about communication in organizations. Specifically, we will define communication, comprehend the different types of communication, identify the importance of communication, explore some lessons and different examples, and then make sure that we're applying key principles. To start off, communication is a fairly straightforward concept. Denhart and his colleagues imply that communication is the sharing of information between two parties, but of course it's actually more complicated than this. Beebe and Redman assert that communication includes the following elements. Someone is sharing information. This is the source or the sender. There's the content of the information itself. This is known as the message. The message is relayed through a channel or media such as verbal communication, a memo, an email, or via body language. The person hearing, reading, or seeing the message is the receiver. This person may or may not provide feedback on what has been shared. Finally, context is the physical or social environment in which the message is sent. There may also be noise, some type of distraction that may interfere with the message being sent as intended. Thus, communication is far more complicated than initially meets the eye. I want to stress a few more things about communication. Communication may be interpersonal, taking place between one or more person and another. This could be a supervisor sharing information with an employee sharing information with a peer, or an employee sharing information with a supervisor. This could cover a myriad of topics, a performance review, details about functions that are being performed, or the need for someone to request time off. Communication can also occur within and across organizations. One or more people could relay information to another unit in the organization. For instance, a leader may let employees know that there will be a meeting on this or that particular day or time. Or the director of public works might relay information about the budget to those involved in finances. Leaders and managers can also communicate with other organizations. For instance, the leader of a fire department and or a mayor may request mutual aid from a neighboring jurisdiction. Thus, communication is occurring at every level of an organization. In addition, there are different types of communication. Some communication occurs in a formal document, such as a policy, a standard operating procedure, or a letter. Other communication takes place in person, where two or more people are talking amongst themselves or involved in a meeting. Communication may also be visual, the sharing of information with pictures, graphs, or videos. Furthermore, some communication is nonverbal. People's physical reactions to communication provides feedback on how others are feeling about the information being shared. People could be excited, disappointed, or angry with the information being relayed. Communication is essential for organizations. It can increase friendship, respect, and unity among leaders, managers, and employees. Communication helps to solidify goals and processes, motivate employees, and determine organizational culture. It strengthens relationships of trust and fosters a sense of unity. Organizations should do all they can to promote effective communication. The opposite is also true. Communication can create serious problems for organizations. When communication is not effective, chaos can result. Let me provide an example that was witnessed during COVID-19. As I share this example, please know that I'm sympathetic to public officials and public administrators who were placed in a very difficult situation when the pandemic started and as the situation evolved. That being said, there were clearly some mistakes made that complicated understanding of what should be done during the pandemic. First, the communication during COVID-19 was not always clear. People heard the following messages: you don't need to wear a mask, you need to wear a mask, you need 2 masks, you need a special type of mask, and they were also told that masks don't work. This created a great deal of confusion among the populace. Second, because of the lack of clarity, the information provided was not always concise, at least when taken together. There was often too much information for people to absorb at any given point in time. Third, the information that was shared with the public was not always consistent. For instance, politicians, public health officials, and emergency management leaders advised people to isolate and social distance. However, there were a number of leaders who did not follow their own advice. They were attending parties, dancing on New Year's Eve, getting their hair cut, allowing Hollywood actors to eat lunch together while a restaurant nearby was shut down. This again led to a lot of concerns and even opposition. Fourth, because of the inconsistencies already mentioned, the communication lost credibility. As a case in point, mixed messages were given about the efficacy and side effects of vaccines. Unfortunately, people began to distrust leaders, public health officials, and emergency managers. Finally, the crisis communication during COVID-19 did not always contain useful recommendations for the public. Most people did understand the need to wear masks and social distance, but others threw their hands up in desperation. They seemed to want to give up on taking any personal protective actions because of all of the problems resulting from contradictory communication. So, how can we avoid these types of mistakes? There are a number of things that can be done to improve communication. First, give consideration to what message you are trying to send. Vet the content of the message and work with others to determine how something should be worded or phrased for maximum impact. Figure out how best to relay the information, whether that's in person, in a meeting, or via a formal notification. Next, watch how people react to the message and decipher if the message is received as intended. Clarify your message if and as needed, and keep in mind that the issue, situation, culture, or individual personalities may require adaptation of these recommendations. There are many other things to keep in mind about communication. Let me share a few of those with you. Be an active listener and engage in dialogue so communication is not just a one-way street. Be sure to write down numerous drafts of formal documents and review all of the written communications carefully. Consider how a message could be worded or phrased for clarity or to persuade others. Be sensitive to intergenerational or interpersonal communication styles. Not everyone approaches communication the same way, and no approach will work in every situation. Avoid communication that is or could be interpreted as being discriminatory. Be sure to foster a culture of inclusion with your communication. Finally, consider how communication can help you conduct meetings more effectively. This is not an easy task, and it will require a lot of preparation and practice. Now let me provide a few observations about email communications, and I'll use an example to draw out this point. When I was at a prior university, someone from risk management or facilities sent out an email to let employees that cannons would be shot off on campus that particular day in order to scare birds away and prevent nesting. Some people replied that they were happy that the birds would leave and therefore would not make messes on their car or on campus grounds. Others replied that they felt sorry for the birds and were worried about their well-being. After a number of emails were sent, someone complained that there were too many emails and that people were filling up his inbox. Another individual commented to this person that he was doing the exact same thing he was complaining about. Finally, a leader from the university asked everyone to remember that the mass email communications were only for official purposes. This situation really illustrates one of the challenges with emails. They are not useful in all situations. With the prior example in mind, you'll want to determine if, how, and when to use email communications versus in-person or Zoom or Teams meetings. There's no hard and fast rule, of course, but here are some options for your consideration. Emails are useful for sharing details about upcoming meetings. In some cases where personal interactions are not possible, emails can be useful to let others know about the hiring of a new employee, wish people the best for upcoming holidays, thank them for productivity and success. Of course, in most situations, meeting in person about some of these topics is preferred. Emails are certainly not appropriate in other situations. In-person interactions and/or Teams or Zoom meetings are better for making decisions in dynamic and volatile situations, resolving problems with no clear answers, identifying a mission or formulating a new standard operating procedure, or disciplining or counseling an employee, although a written document may be required for a paper trail. Be aware that multiple forms of communication may be needed at times. Things like the rolling out of a new program may involve a unique mix of all forms of communication to heighten the chances of success. To wrap up, let me reiterate a few key points. Communication is the sharing of information, and it's vital for organizations. We need to be aware of the various types and means of communication and ensure that we avoid common pitfalls. It's imperative that we follow the principles of communication to do so effectively. I hope that this information about communication was useful. If so, give a like and have a great day.